Well, welcome back. Today's episode is called Brough Superior, The Legend Lives. What a fantastic word, legend. Wouldn't you like to be called a legend? Well, this motorcycle has been a legend for over 100 years, and we're going to explore that legend today. If any brand deserves the label legend, it's the Brough Superior, which is often referred to as the Rolls Royce of motorcycles for its blend of meticulous design, advanced engineering, and raw speed. The original Brough Superior brand was short-lived, with its heyday in the 1920s and 1930s, but production ceased in 1940 with the advent of World War II. And yet the legend was born, and it persists to this day. The first piece for the Brough Superior exhibit that we acquired was this absolutely beautiful 1937 Petro-tube sidecar. It's in amazing condition, I think you'd have to admit. Don't laugh, you'll hurt his feelings. It actually has an ingenious feature to it, and that is this tube that wraps around the sidecar was truly an auxiliary gas tank to the motorcycle that it would be attached to. Actually, this worn and rusty sidecar has a very distinctive pedigree. It was part of the mythical Broughs of Bodmin Moor, which was a collection of 8 motorcycles and assorted parts that were thought to have disappeared, but which were discovered a few years ago, literally in a barn in Cornwall, England. So it's part of a barn find. And that was the very last collection of unrestored Broughs ever discovered. After we acquired this piece, I thought to myself, this is a magnificent piece to start the Brough Superior collection. Actually, that's not right. I turned to my director, Stacy, and I said, what the hell are we going to do with this rust bucket? But then I thought to myself, why not combine this rusty, neglected barn find of a sidecar with the most pristine example I could possibly find of a Brough Superior SS80 motorcycle that it would have been attached to over 80 years ago. And then the two together would make a powerful statement about how the legend of Brough Superior could shine through, regardless of how much time and how much neglect the parts had been subjected to. We could look at the sidecar and see the effects of aging in a barn, and then we could look at the cycle and see the miracle of time standing still. And so the search was on until we found this beauty, a 1938 Brough Superior SS80 Deluxe in mint condition that cost far more than I had shelled out for the sidecar. But I was doing something more than acquiring a Brough. I was piecing together an exhibit that would tell a story. And sure enough, even today, our guests rotate their heads back and forth between the rusty sidecar and the magnificent SS80, and imagine that these two were once brothers separated at birth over a half-century ago, one of which lived a life of privilege and attention, and the other of which was stuffed in a barn and abandoned for decades. So now we had the rusty sidecar and we had the pristine SS80. But the story does not end there, and neither does the exhibit. Only a few years ago, the Brough Superior brand, which had been in hibernation for many decades, arose from the scrap heap of motorcycles long thought to be dead. A new owner acquired the brand name in an effort to bring back the glory days of Brough Superior innovation and excellence with fresh examples of Brough Superior motorcycles. And just a few months ago, the museum acquired this brand new, never ridden Brough Superior Pendine Sand Racer. And true to its name, Pendine Sand Racer, notice that we gave this racer its own little sandbox to play in. The history of Brough Superior and its brand is so magical that it actually embraces another legendary figure, T.E. Lawrence, also known as Lawrence of Arabia, pictured here. First of all, a word about the artist, Endo Makoto, who is probably destined to become a legend in his own right. I am a huge fan and an avid collector of Endo paintings. I've commissioned over a dozen originals by Endo, who has the unique style of painting freehand with chopsticks. That's right, chopsticks. Endo paints without any projection or tracing. Everything is freehand using chopsticks as his paintbrush. And every once in a while he hits the canvas with the chopsticks, and that accounts for the splatter that you see in his paintings. But the painting of Lawrence of Arabia by Endo is not one that I commissioned. It's one that Endo did on his own. And he sent me just a tiny thumbnail of it attached to an email and said, Bobby, what do you think of this? Would you be interested? And I didn't even know he had done the painting. And I said, it's spectacular, it's sensational, and what a great fit with the Brough Superior exhibit. And I said, yeah, absolutely, I would love that. It's ghostly, it's emotive, it's dramatic, and it shows two legends in the same painting, Lawrence of Arabia and the Brough Superior. And notice what Endo did. The license plate in the painting is GDH 189, and that's the same license plate as on my Brough Superior. A century ago, T.E. Lawrence was a mythical figure in England, renowned as a British war hero and a great writer. Lawrence was also a lover of Brough Superiors, with 7 Broughs in his personal collection, and an 8th in production at the time of his death. And that death was itself the stuff of legend. In 1935, Lawrence was cruising on his 7th Brough when he crested over a hill with an obstructed view of the other side of the road. At the last minute, he swerved to avoid 2 boys on bicycles and hurtled over the handlebars of his Brough to his death. The boys were saved, and Lawrence was an heroic figure to the end, a part of the Brough Superior legend, and also a part of this exhibit.